The content of this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal or therapeutic advice. This week, I received an email newsletter from the Family Separation Clinic, Karen Woodall, the Lighthouse Parent newsletter. And there was an issue that was raised in there that I found particularly inspiring. And that is that children who are in a splitting state are often hyper vigilant, and that traditional discipline can backfire. And therefore, it's essential not to be too reactive, but to focus on what might be going on with the child's behavior. And because the Family Separation Clinic is focused on parents that are concerned or experiencing parental alienation or even complete rejection, this is particularly relevant. And I went through a divorce as a child, so I knew the pains of it, and I wanted to make sure that my children never experience that. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you hope, and as a parent in a high conflict divorce, I tried super hard to do everything I could to be the best parent I could. Take parenting classes, join moms groups, read books, do therapy, did everything I thought I could possibly do. Also in court as an attorney, I never saw a parenting plan that didn't include that the parents would do a co-parenting course. So that is another thing that you would think, oh, the parents do the co-parenting course, that's going to help. And in healthy situations, it does. But in a high conflict situation, frequently the parent never completed it or never turned their certificate in. So they just didn't feel that it was necessary, or that maybe they were above it. So I think it's important, yes, to do that work, but to also know that you can only control yourself and do the best you can, because you can't control what the other parent is going to do. So you need to take it to a higher level and be the absolute best that you can. So on the topic of traditional discipline, I stopped and I thought about how was I disciplined? And basically it was whippings with a belt when I was young, and that was occasional, but it was always a threat, and also groundings or some other punishment, taking something away. And this is, of course, traditional. And I think it's important, parents, to pause here, even pause the recording for a moment, and think about how you were parented. How was your former spouse parented? How were your parents parented? And how is that carrying over into how you're parenting today? I love the line in that newsletter where it said, discipline is teaching. It's not punishment. And I'm grateful that parenting resources, books, people like Dr. Becky of today are more evolved than they were in the past. And I think that's an important thing to recognize and to utilize all the resources you can, but also to look backward. What were the tools, or what were the common things that were done when you were growing up, and how can you transcend this? And sometimes this even goes into as far as being part of a family intergenerational trauma. In my work with the Child Abuse Prevention Council, we often saw that different cultures were raised to have a paddle or a whip or something. And so it's important. Then Child Welfare and Child Abuse Prevention Council do outreach and education for parents that, yeah, these things might have been culturally acceptable when you were growing up, but they are no longer acceptable, and child welfare services wouldn't tolerate them either. So let's take an example of a discipline situation. Let's say one child has hit or kicked a sibling. Instead of just automatically sending them to timeout, maybe take a few deep breaths and think, is this something that has been modeled for them? Are they frustrated? What's going on with them? Instead of being reactive and just automatically sending them to timeout or giving them a punishment, really trying to understand what it is that's going on with them. Are they swearing? Does their other parent swear, or have you been swearing in front of them? And does this mean that you need to have a discussion about it and say, oh, we got to call it out on all of us? We can't do this anymore. Some kids have had issues with acting out at school, and the school may even refer them into a peer group for behavior improvement or something, but they're not looking at the home environment. So one of the places where I volunteered, it was called Tahoe Safe Alliance at the time. It's now called Sierra Community House. The outreach counselors that went into the schools and taught kids about appropriate behaviors at age-appropriate level curriculums had aha moments with teens that the teens realize, oh my gosh, the environment in my home is not okay. It's violent and it's not acceptable. And what dad is doing and saying to mom is not okay. Or that what mom is doing as far as drinking and then neglecting us is not okay. So if a program is just addressing a behavior, something that a kid is doing and acting out, and they're not digging deep into what's going on in the home environment, what's going on for this child, it's not going to work. It's just a Band-Aid. And unfortunately, if you're parenting in that way where you're just dealing with the behavior and not the underlying issue, then it's going to backfire, just like what Karen Woodall is describing in her newsletter. So this kind of plays into things I've spoke about in prior episodes, and that would be breaking the intergenerational cycle, the trauma. So just because something happened to you and you've seen it happen to your kids doesn't mean it needs to happen for your grandkids. You can correct it, you can get the resources, you can work on it, and you can help and guide and understand your child's emotions and correct and steer the behaviors. Most parents tend to parent the way they were parented unless they say, whoa, this is something I really need to work on. And they make a conscious effort and a plan to shift and to do things differently. And it's often difficult to do that, especially if you're in a high conflict situation and you're in survival mode, or you're just in the midst of the divorce and you don't know where you're going to live, or you don't have a job, or you don't have income. All these things play into your stress level, and they can make it so that you're not showing up in the best place possible for your kids. So always remember, that's the priority. Take the deep breaths and seek to understand what is really going on for them. So some actionable tools that may help with this. I love Dr. Becky. You've heard me say it before. Subscribe to her podcast and follow her on Instagram. She's got some great little pointers. Get some books. Maybe reach out to different nonprofits in the area, see what parenting plans are available. Complete any parenting plans that are court ordered by the court for sure. And what else can you do? You could learn about your kids' ACE score and traumas and see what you can do to help them and smooth that out. Think about your own. I mentioned those in earlier things too. You can work to be the cycle breaker for your child. So navigating this in the environment of parental alienation just adds even more to your challenges. One of the things that is really important to do, of course, is use the parenting app and document all your challenges and your thoughts. But of course, avoid doing any behaviors that are similar to what the alienating parent is doing, and just be consistent and loving and seek to understand and validate your child's emotions and feelings and understand the conflict and the loyalty conflict that they might be experiencing. Look to the environment that they are surviving in. Are they thriving? What can you do to help them thrive, to know and adjust? Takeaways, tools, resources for today. I strongly recommend subscribing to the Family Separation Clinic newsletter. Register at School of Custody and you will get our Alienating Behaviors booklet, and make sure that you're not doing any of those. Make sure that you're well aware of what they are and that you're documenting it in a parenting app. Complete your parenting classes, and even if they don't seem worthwhile and it's a high conflict situation, you could gain one nugget from a parenting class that would make a difference for your child. Practice modeling emotional regulation for yourself by breathing before you react, and do everything you can to seek good parenting advice that resonates with you. Consider divorce coaching or therapy for quality support. Remember what the Family Separation Clinic said. Discipline is teaching, not control. So look at each need for discipline as an opportunity to teach, to nurture emotions, and for you and your child to grow. And remember, you're not alone. There's support and there's hope. Listeners, please share and subscribe and leave comments or questions or suggestions for future episodes. Thank you and have a great day.